It showcases practical makeup work at the level of technology that we are at right now. And a lot of the times our work gets missed, but this is the star. And I really don't think that's happened in many, many years.
Boy, I hear everything they say, ain't you? I guess we both are. How you doing? I'm Oz.
The Penguin version in the movie, it opened something up in Colin Farrell for him to go somewhere which he normally may have not been able to go as himself. So on the set, first few days, they already started talking about, oh my God, I really want to see what this character is and what it does. And it spawned the series.
I'm gonna get whatever the hell's in that shipment. I'm gonna run this goddamn city.
It's 4 or 5 years later. So Colin is aged 4 years. He's never going to look like the Penguin version in the movie because he looks different. So all of that has to play into what we're seeing now.
Have you seen Alberto?
Oh, yeah, right. No. I mean, he's the boss now, so he's a busy man. You know, but I'm sure he's fine.
I think the character is a little bit like a Two-Face. You know, he's a liar. So I made one side of his face a little bit more crazy, and the other side of his face is a little bit more normal. On the scarred side of his face, he's got one sort of drooping eyelid. So maybe he got into some kind of brutal fight or something, and his eye was a little swollen and lower, and the scar is going across it. And on this side of the face, where his nostril is, I just did a very subtle shape that mimics the beak of a penguin. And the scar is all pointing to it. And his eyebrows, this shape has to be in it, almost like a penguin. So it's very, very subtle. But these subtleties a viewer sees subconsciously. From my initial sculptures, I always am thinking of movement. For instance, I used all of his forehead and I covered only the brow region. I used all of his eyes except for his top eyelid on one of them. And everything else is covered, but everything is thought out and engineered as to how thick or thin everything is. So we're able to, in the mold, design where these densities of skin is. So that is vitally important in how something's going to move. So very delicately painted on our silicone pieces. And it's my whole team of people there pre-painting and applying with me. And we're making sure that Colin is as good as can be every day. And then obviously the foot, that gives the reason for his walk. And we created that where I looked at penguin feet and I looked at club feet and I kind of hybridized them. We had built undersuits, and obviously he's a gangster size. He's big, he's intimidating. He's got some muscle in there, and it kind of is like a penguin, silhouette-wise.
It's a terrible feeling, isn't it? There's nothing left to hide behind.
That is a full prosthetic on that nude scene. So that was all us. We all built this whole thing, and he gets in like pants and a shirt kind of thing and arms. And then the makeup's glued and connected to the neck. And all these thousands and thousands of hairs are all over the body. We built everything possible just in case the angle changed.
It really was that attention to detail that I think makes this show shine. And seeing how everyone has reacted, it really makes us realize that all those things we did, we think really made the difference to like bring as much realism into it. We want to match the visual tone and look of the film. And in general, that tone was as grounded and based in reality as possible, although seen through very characterized and very stylized cinematic lenses. So on our show, we decided to use a very, very large OLED screen and pump like every digital pattern we could think about. Anything that would let us know specifically what every part of the lens was doing to each color channel and what would happen when you go in and out of focus, creating a good appendix for all the compositing teams. To help take care of matching that cinematic look, the film showed a lot of what was happening downtown, and you got a lot of these aerial views of the flood. And we wanted to say what did it look like at ground zero. where the water would have rushed in the fastest, catching everyone off guard. And we wanted to just keep it really personal for the scene leading up to the event. We had a practical location. It's Victor's POV. So a lot of effort was made to make it feel like a nice, vibrant neighborhood. That's why in front of the seawall, we put this elevated freeway. It was such an everyday thing to see. And it adds a lot of scale. We then built the same set on stage to do our work with Victor and the bombs going off. And it's not so important to see the bombs. It was important to hear the bombs and to feel the light of the bombs. And we put all these 10K tungsten lights because we were really big on getting the fiery color temperature of those lights. And that kind of tactileness and reactions, that's what we were going for, that Renzi could give us. And they were so good, so authentic. We had a giant vibrating steel plate built into the floor to actually shake and vibrate. A shot that was done in camera because we knew this would have a huge visual effects thing in it. We were very careful not to forget what the tone of the scene is, which is not this like action-packed, climactic, bombastic thing. We filmed the camera move looking at just a normal street, pretending there's a flood. We ran it as one long shot. It's always more expensive to do it that way, but that way it was like truly a continuous simulation, like a piece of footage to give the editor.
Nothing's standing in your way now.
Goddamn right.
That last shot in 8, that very poetic shot of him dancing with Eve ever so creepily. Camera pulls out. It's a CG build of that hotel, super detailed. Live action Oz, live action Midground City, CG and matte painting, Distant City, bat signal and sky. That was all hand painted so that we could tweak it perfectly.
All my design work, even when it's fantasy, it does subconsciously create an authentic image. And for the show, I would say the design lived between myth and reality. Lauren and I talked about Crown Point as the symbol of the poor neighborhoods. We were looking for a much more vibrant vibe to the neighborhood that it had before the Riddler's bombs. So then when we see the neighborhood, we can really see the tragedy of the Riddler's actions. The practical set was 2 blocks long, and it had a whole little patch of stores that were closed. And so we were able to create the things that make it a center for the neighborhood. And then we created the piles of cars, the way the water would rush in, the way it piled them up. And the last thing was, through visual effects, creating the Zuliker sign and creating the rest of Gotham seen in the distance. So there was really a lot of layers to it. An enormous amount of design went into creating these 2 blocks to give you the right sense of the story.
Feel that, right? It's humid down here. Dark. You know what thrives in a place like this? Mushrooms? Bingo. Yeah, mushrooms. Welcome to our new base of operations.
I wanted to create a working men's cathedral. And because throughout the entire show I was playing with the idea of arches, I pitched the idea of vaulted ceilings, which led me to Kingsbridge Armory. So we used a real lobby and we tied the architecture to the set that was built inside the armory. And it worked beautifully because it feels so real. And then we got 2 trolley cars that are kind of amusement park trolley cars and completely turned them into our trolley cars. And when Lauren wrote Diamond District, an idea came into my head. His original loft can be a jeweler repair shop because that's what is on the 2nd and 3rd story in those Diamond District buildings.
That's the remote for
Tacky.
And Lauren scripted the fake fireplace, which gave us the idea of the poker table and things that he thinks rich men have. And none of it hangs together very well. All of it is very hodgepodge. And you can tell he has no taste, but he has the aspirations of being a mogul.
You can use the sink to clean up. Touch anything, I'll know.
He so compartmentalizes everything that it makes total metaphorical sense that he would live in a room with a lot of drawers. Because to me, symbolically, every drawer had a light. I leaned into the idea that the hotel is abandoned. The penguin is repairing it to turn it into his eventual lair. So what we see is the ballroom cut in half, and we see these gigantic columns and, very important to me, frescoes of the harpies angrily staring down the penguin. Because it's so about his relationship with women, with his paid girlfriend and with his mother. And then because it was under restoration, I had the thought, let's put the chandeliers on the ground. And it gave it such a great atmosphere, plus a source of lighting. And it just became such an interesting set.